Hi, everyone. Welcome back for another great virtual wine tasting here with us with Becker Vineyards. My name is Rebecca Nelson, Wine Club Director here. We've got a fantastic wine that we're tasting tonight, our 2017 Ranger Haze. So hopefully you have that in your glass. It's a fabulous red blend. It's actually one of our flagship wines here at Becker Vineyards, so we're really excited for everybody to get a chance to try this. We have Dr. Richard Becker back with us again tonight. We also have our winemaker, John Leahy, and our general manager, Bret. I want to quickly remind everybody, if you would share this feed on your Facebook page for us, make sure we get it out to everybody we possibly can. We really appreciate that. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to the guys to get us started on this fantastic tasting. Thank you so much. Cheers.
Cheers, Rebecca. Thank you for another wonderful introduction. And I guess we won't see you again for a couple more days. So before we really get started, Dr. Becker, would you give us a couple of words of introduction, please, sir?
John, thank you. We're at 100 days now of this battle with the pandemic, and we're trying to return to as much of the business activity of our country as we can, but that should only be for people with the least risk in their lives. My feeling is that anyone who can remain separate from the risk should do so. And I understand the conflict between our culture and our livelihood and also our health. It's a complex issue. But my vote is with the scientists. I would protect as much as I can all those at risk, and that's a significant portion of our population. Anyway, on a lighter note, we're going to have a virtual tasting of a wine that I love, and it'll be fun to talk about it, how it occurred.
Well, I think we need to draw attention behind you to the statue that appears on this bottle. So right next to the beautiful Sabidium orchids is the statue, and I can't remember the artist's name.
Clay Dahlberg.
Yeah.
It's not Tony Bell, it's Clay Dahlberg. Another wonderful friend who's a wonderful artist. Lives in Hunt, Texas, and has produced some of the outstanding Western culture in our country, collected by former secretaries of state of our country, many famous people. And I'm very proud that he's allowed us to use this image on our bottle of John Coffee Haze.
Well, and a great bottle it is, and we can see this. I am not going to hold the bottle up to the camera because we've got a beautiful picture already posted.
You do. There it is.
Oh, that's perfect. The last time I did this, it went out of focus, and everybody was starting to like, "What are you doing?" So,
well, John, I want to read what's on the back of this. I want to read what's on the back of this bottle, written by my son Joe Becker, Dr. Joe Becker, my colleague, about describing this. In the 19th century, our state property in Stonewall, Texas was surveyed by not yet Captain John Coffee Haze of the Texas Rangers. Many of the early Rangers were surveyors before they were Rangers. This iconic Texas Ranger was the inspiration for the sculpture by artist Clay Dahlberg in 1995. In this portrayal, Ranger Haze peers alone over a large boulder at the Comanche war party that has surrounded him at Enchanted Rock. This image depicts the valiant Texas spirit of the 19th century. It allows us to reflect on the lives of our ancestors in the Texas Hill Country. We celebrate Dahlberg and the many Texas grape growing families who trace their roots to that hard, unpredictable time. Let us raise a glass to their grit and determination.
I will cheers to that one.
Same here.
Absolutely. Okay, so into the business at hand. Everybody at home, if you've got a glass, if you don't have a glass of this by now, after that great introduction, give it a swirl, a sniff, and a taste. Okay, Bret, we've got a lineup of vineyards here. So oddly enough,
I'm having to look down at my notes. They're way down there on the table. So
I know, right? I did the same thing. But we just got back from the High Plains, and this Texas wine is a High Plains wine. So we've got yet more to talk about that wonderful growing area. The first up.
I think that what Joe wrote for the back label is pretty perfect for this wine, based on blends. And I mean, if we're looking at the blend sheet, it's going to meld with what Joe wrote for the back label. Pretty perfectly, I think, because the words that he was talking about how hard it is to grow grapes in Texas, I think we're going to see that from the standpoint of these vineyards that we come from, or that we're getting this from. Historically, the Malbec has came from the Talent Vineyard in Mason County, but every year we kind of let the wines kind of open up to see what the best option is going to show us. This particular one, just when we picked that blind, happened to be predominantly was Canada Malbec. And then the rest of it just kind of fell into place. So I'll let you go from there, I guess.
Yeah, no, it did. And, it's hard to explain to somebody who has not experienced Texas wine that you're not going out on a limb when you take a sip of Texas wine. It is a wine producing region. But what you're going to get is some incredible concentrations and incredible fruit notes that are a little more difficult to get in other places. Yes, you can find wines that you like all over the world, but here in Texas, I think one of the beautiful things for me is Malbec. The Malbec that we grow here has got this beautiful undercurrent of brown spice and a really nice, medium, well-developed body. To me, it's this beautiful blending wine, but to be able to showcase really good Malbec as we do in this wine, we did add a little bit of Petit Verdot and a little bit of Merlot for those background notes, but the Malbec shines through on this. So Doc, what was the inspiration behind this? And for those of you at home who are following us, this is the relabel. We renamed the old Raven wine. So it's the same Malbec Petit Verdot, but we named it after Captain Hayes. So Doc, what was the original inspiration behind the Raven and then this wine?
Well, the inspiration was, as always, or many times, Buddy would be quiet for like a week, and then she'd look over and say, in Argentina, they have wonderful beef and they have wonderful red wine. Why don't we sort of put that together in Texas some way? What do you think? What's the grape they plant down there? And actually, I'm kidding about that. She said, why don't you plant some Malbec? And so we did. And we began to have wonderful Malbec. And we made 3 trips to Mendoza, and no one could have been friendlier or more receiving than the wonderful winemakers at those great properties in Argentina. They took me all around in their barrel shays many times, and often I would say, "What's your favorite grape to blend with Malbec?" And it was almost always Petit Verdot. And so Bret likes to tell the story. We were walking through the barrel room one time, tasting the wines, kind of seeing how everything was developing. And we got the idea, we had the Malbec and the Petit Verdot had each been in barrel about 1.5 years, and they were side by side. And we began mixing them together, based on the experience we'd had in Argentina. And I remember Bret saying, I think this is not so bad. So
I think everybody in the group said that this is not so bad. And the people that were touring were not your average wine drinker. They were very well skilled or well versed in their wine knowledge. And I think my exact words, this could be the best wine I've ever tasted that we made. When he was doing, by the way, John, this was a very scientific blend with a wine thief in a glass. Yeah. And he got roughly 50%, you know what I mean? But, right. Depends on where your thumb lets go. So it wasn't very scientific, but it was a neat story, I think, how it came to be.
I particularly enjoy the fact that Dr. Becker is a scientist, and he'll do these back of the napkin blends. A little bit of this, a little bit of that. Do it this way. I'm like, thank you, alchemist Becker.
One of the great truths in medicine is that all science is measurement, but not all measurement is scientific.
So, correct. Yeah.
Separation.
Well, from inspired to this, I mean, it's gained quite a following. We have a lot of people that really look forward to this, and it really struck me. I guess about 6-7 years ago, we were at a vintner's dinner, and about 6 different people came up. When's the next one coming out? When is it coming out? And I'm, it's like we just released this one, a few months prior, and that was part of the dinner, and they were already looking forward to, because they wanted to make sure they were on the receiving end of when the Raven came out, and then now John Hayes. But I have to say, I love the rebranding, and I love this bottle a lot. And we will get back into the wine, but Bret, you've got to tell the story, because this had to be the most intense. You can be as nice as you want, but the amount of time we spent on getting the bottle just right was amazing.
I think it took 8 months, roughly. You know, normally we can get a label design and be done in 1 or 2 months, but this took forever. That sculpture that's back behind Doc, when we talked about what's the new name going to be, I think that the general consensus of the meetings was, let's tie it back to something that the Beckers remembered about their property there in Stonewall that they planted the original vineyard on, and that really was the goal. And so they kept talking about, or Doc kept saying that he remembered on the survey that it was stamped by Jack Coffee Hayes, and that's where the whole basis of this goes. So I'll let Doc tell the story about that. But as far as the label goes, Doc sent me a picture of that sculpture behind him, and says, I want to put this on the bottle, and I sent it to a lot of folks and that are in the decoration world for wine glass. So like, we just don't understand how we could get from this to a finished product. And I'm like, well, let's give it a shot and let's try. And so 8 months later, some people at Monvera Glass and Decor in California took that image and threw it into all kind of weird grayscale to where we could take that image of that bronze and actually lay it down on this bottle. But the funnier part of the story is how many times we had to print it to get it offset sideways, right?
Yeah, right.
so the bottle is supposed to set at you like this, right, with the tree and the logo forward, but you can see that the letters and everything run sideways, and so you can see the guy runs kind of around the side, right? So I remember that we had this discussion, and I may or may not have went against the wishes of our owner and ordered a prototype that wasn't exactly what we thought it would be. But again, this is what we did, and I think it turned out cool because when you walk by this bottle, it almost looks like he's following you, right? So they came up with this grayscale to depict this bottle, or that depict that sculpture. I think it's amazing to me that we got this on the bottle. It looks so cool. So, but again, that's my personal opinion. I worked on it 8 months. I think my kids are cute. Like, that's I guess up to everybody's opinion, right?
Well, yeah.
The story about the shootout on Enchanted Rock is that the Comanches hated Jack Hayes. They called him Devil Jack. And one time they separated him from the group of rangers he was frequently with, and he actually went out riding early one morning, and they chased him up on the top of Enchanted Rock. And he had 2 5-shooter Colt pistols and a muzzle loader. And so he had 11 shots. And Clay told me that the first shot, in which he's using the muzzle loader, he took with the long rifle because after that it was going to be closer combat. So he wanted to kill the first Comanche with a rifle. When his friends got to him, the story is there were 10 dead Comanches around him, and he had 1 bullet left, and that was for him if they caught him, because it would have been a bad day at Black Rock for Jack Hayes if the Comanches had got their hands on him.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. One of the things, when we first came out with this and reading the history of Mr. Hayes was when he in later in life, he moved to California, he got married, moved to California and stuff. When his first son was born, he actually got a gift from Chief Buffalo Hump of the Comanche, sent a birth gift to his newborn son, a gold spoon that was engraved Buffalo Hump Jr. So I love that story. But yeah, so I think the only thing that Comanche probably enjoyed more than fighting was having a good enemy they could keep for life.
Well, they loved to cook stolen colts over mesquite fire. That was the other thing they loved. They liked to steal horses from the German
just want everybody to know I'm not mentioning barbecue on this one.
And cook them over a mesquite fire.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
So from the permutation and the reason you chose him too, we haven't actually talked about that. Why did you choose this particular gentleman for this bottle?
Jack Hayes.
Yes, sir.
Well, he surveyed our property, the property where the winery is.
Right.
And he made a claim to it, and he told friends that that's the place on Grape Creek where he wanted to be. He was going to build a cabin, and at some point, if the Indians ever let him, he would retire there.
Mm-hmm.
But that didn't happen. But he made a claim to our property in addition to surveying.
So John, I think that this will tie in really good to when we're back open and running again. Not a lot of people have heard this, and I'm just going to say it, but We do have plans to do a heritage tour that goes back to that old cabin that Dr. Becker is referring to on the property that they bought originally, that was surveyed by Jack Hayes, and taking the cabin that we have in the middle of the property by the winery and taking you back about 1.5 miles back past the old, buildings that are back there, and actually doing wine tastings in that old cabin. And so I think that obviously we need to not miss the history behind Jack Coffee Hayes while we're on that tour and while we're doing that tasting, sitting back in a cabin that would have been built around the time he was running around Texas and doing all the things that he did. I think that's going to be pretty cool.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, and for everybody, if you're ever out in Oakland, California, you can go see his grave because that's where he's buried. He actually ended up out on the West Coast. First elected sheriff of San Francisco. So it's a hell of, some of these guys in history, you get these points where these guys that they're like everywhere. They start off here, they go here, they go everywhere. You're like, buddy, you got around better without a car than I do with the truck.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to get back to this, to the wine actually, because it does, the Malbec does come from the Canada vineyard. And then we've got Petit Verdot and Merlot from both us and from the Jet Wilmoth, from the Wilmoth vineyard, which we've talked about before. But so you'll start to see some writing themes here that the Wilmoth Merlot does very, very well in a lot of different things. But this Malbec from Canada's was just outstanding. And
well, and then John, don't forget the part about our estate Malbec that was replanted in the back vineyard in about, I think it's about 5th or 6th leaf. And personally, my goal, we went to Drew Tallett's vineyard in Mason and saw how well he was growing the Malbec. Our block of Malbec that was planted in 2001, we only had 1 acre of it, was on, in my opinion, the wrong rootstock. And so when we started to replant vines at the estate vineyard, we actually went after Malbec specifically to hopefully, in my mind, make Malbec be good to go in this bottle of wine. And luckily it had in this particular vintage. So.
Oh, it did. Yeah. Well, 17 again. So it's a 2017. And I don't think I have to go very far out on a limb to say I think 2017 is probably going to be one of the best vintages in Texas in quite some time. It's just a really nice concentrated wine. It's very, very nice. So we got a question on the barrel program. So for folks who are interested in that, yes, this actually did see, again, a fair amount of new oak, about 35%. Of that, actually, the majority was French. So kind of a reverse of what we normally do. But a lot of that Malbec did spend time in French oak. But don't tell Dr. Becker that. He thinks it was all cheap American oak. So. But, so this one kind of breaks my normal rule. It's a little more new oak than normal. So almost 40% 1 and 2 year old barrels. And then the remainder was neutral, but it was all barrel aged. Yes, it did go through malolactic fermentation. So all the components did. So we get this really nice, rather smooth rounded wine on here. So I have to ask, we got to get to the food portion of this because it's Food Friday. So Bret, and I apologize for folks at home. I just got called out that I didn't show anything. I promised to cook crab cakes. Guys, don't worry. The fire marshal told my wife that the kitchen will probably be inhabitable next week after they get done with the remodel. So, we'll just say we had a little happenstance and go from there.
Well, we also had crazy storms in the hill country this last 2 nights. So I don't really blame you. Most people are cleaning up.
Yeah, and the truth of the matter was I stayed a little late at work today. I got a few blends done for tomorrow's tasting, so I kind of ran out of time on that.
Yeah.
But,
and I'm in my kitchen and there's nothing on the stove. Look.
I don't know, kind of like that little Le Creuset pot in the back there.
Yeah.
So what would be your food choice with this wine, Bret?
All right, I'm gonna go on a limb and say lamb. And I'm gonna, I'm not a huge lamb fan, but I've had exceptional lamb in my time at the winery, and we've been able to travel all over the place. But the simple lamb chop that's marinated in olive oil and oregano overnight with some salt, and you throw it on the grill and just let it kind of sizzle on both sides and flip it. That's what I'm thinking.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Dr. Becker, what do you think? What would be your choice of food for this?
I'm going to stick to the Argentine formula of beef, and I'd love to have some Perini beef with this, and any other sides will be fine. But I think the Malbec and the beef go well together.
They do. I will say from experience that this wine does very well on a little bit lighter fare. I love a good pasta dish. To me is awesome. And we did black olives, tomatoes, and artichokes on pasta. Very simple with olive oil, a little bit of pepper, and some balsamic, and it did beautifully with that. So it really is a wide variety of wine. Yes, it's a nice wine to drink by itself, but this wine just screams for food in my mind. I think it definitely needs some food to really enjoy it to its fullest extent on there. So I got somebody in here was just scrolling up and saying it's great with stuffed clams and a little spicy.
Yeah, I believe it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. So from there, I do want to talk just a little more about the vineyards itself, because we did not actually go into the Canada vineyard in the Malbec in that back area. So the Canada's planted that Malbec, what was it, back in 2013, Bret, or 2014 that they planted it?
Yeah, somewhere in there.
Yeah. So this was actually the 17 would have been the first year of full production on that vineyard, and it's a nice 5 acre.
5 acre, yeah.
Yeah.
It's 5 acres, yeah.
5 acre block. And we were just back there, and it does beautifully, but this, it's a very vigorous vineyard, and this fruit comes out. It sets almost every year, but it really ripens up nicely. So it gives us a lot of good play for this. And the spice on this is absolutely fantastic. So the Far West Texas does very good justice to this. And then of course the Petit Verdot came from the hill country. So that was really nice too. So it adds a nice little pepper to it. Well, guys, I want to encourage everybody to keep asking their questions. We're going to do a Q&A here in just a minute or two. Couple of things I want to mention about the wine. It's been a 2020 and 2019 International Silver Award winner all the way straight through. It also did the Texas Lone Star International with a silver. So it's showing very well. If you want to find this wine, call the winery. Give us a call at 830-644-2681, extension 230. The ladies there will be happy to send this wine to you. When the restaurants reopen, we do have this in a few placements around the state. So otherwise, you will have to get it from the winery direct. If you want to order some more, please feel free. We're also open for curbside pickup, both here and at the winery and in town in Fredericksburg. So keep sending your questions. If you like this video, share it with everyone. Otherwise, I think we'll wrap this up for Food Friday and let everybody get on to dinner and a absolutely fun weekend. So.
And graduation for me, by the way. So I'll give a big shout out to all
Del Weston, congratulations.
Well, not just for us, but all the 2020 graduates and all the high schools across the United States and in college. You know, it's been a weird week not having to go to a lot of planned events.
Yeah, we had
what we normally would do, but
yeah, we had a nephew graduate up in Dallas from college. He graduated this year at home.
So we're going down to the football field, and there's only 60 kids in his class, so they're going to stay far away from each other, and I think we get to invite 5 people each,
right?
And then they're actually going to go through the graduation thing, so that was a bonus in his mind, I think, but it's definitely been different. So we want to wish congratulations to the graduates of 2020.
Oh yes, we do. They did a lot of hard work, and they deserve it, and they deserve all of our admiration. And good luck with the coming year.
I want to mention that 3 of my grandsons graduated this year. Nathan went from the 2nd to the 3rd grade. Nolan went from kindergarten to 1st grade, and Nicholas is about to become a pre-K.
Hey, wait a minute! Since you mentioned your oldest grandson, would you like to tell us about the 9th hole of golf last week?
I'm sure he would. My 8-year-old grandson beat me on a round of match play.
Well,
a bad day.
And at least everybody gets shocked. It's a very competitive family. I'm not surprised.
I'm the last one to get dressed, so I gotta go.
Okay.
Look at that beauty. Okay.
All right, everybody. I want to wish everybody a good weekend, great health, and good wine. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.